Hello and welcome to Developer Diary 2 of Interesting NPCs. Today we're going to start with this new NPC right here. She should start an animation. Here we go. Now if you notice, I put her a good distance from the door, and that's deliberately so you can't talk to her. Originally I had a different animation where she'd jump up and down, but she looked pretty ridiculous, and most of the animations in this game do look ridiculous, and that one was no exception. The point of this is sort of a jailbreak. I'm going to skip through the text here to avoid spoilers. Now you have a choice here of letting her leave on her own or having her follow you. Now for the purpose of this diary, we're going to have her leave on her own. Now you notice she is sneaking, but she's not really using stealth principles. She walked right into the light, and she's gonna walk right by this guard. And the reason being is I didn't set them to opposing factions. The problem with that is it basically get into a clusterfuck, and I mean it wouldn't have a conclusion. They would just keep fighting, and it would have no end. It's not as if they were to escort her back into the cell. So I think for now it's gonna have to be this way. Alright, now we've just escaped.
Yes?
And from here, I wanted to give the player some agency as to where NPCs like this who don't have an original home can live. So in this case, we have an option here to ask her where she's going. And what will happen is you'll have basically 3 suggestions you can give her. She may not follow the suggestion exactly because she's her own person, but you can sort of influence where she's going to go, and doing that will bring about unique dialogue for that location she's living in. For now, what we're going to do is have her follow us.
Lead the way.
Show something else. Okay, what I want to show now is location-specific dialogue. The commentary right now for followers, let's say you're in a cave with bandits, and it basically will choose from dialogue that has to do with either caves or bandits. And it's pretty efficient for having only a few lines cover a lot of the areas in Skyrim, but it also gets pretty repetitive. So what I wanted to do was try and make dialogue that was specific to the location you're in. And you can do that basically with distance checks. First thing I noticed when I was in this cave was there was a coin purse up there, so I wanted to have a thief character mention the coin purse. As you can see, it's not triggering now, it just triggered. Yeah, so you could have easily passed it without it triggering. But with others, you should definitely see something. Oh, crud. Alright, so the next trigger in this cave is on this chest. And it's a pretty noticeable chest. And for a thief, something you might comment on. And there we go. I also noticed that despite what vanilla does, you don't need scripts. You can just put the dialogue there and it will trigger. I'm not sure why vanilla uses scripts. It may have to do with the fact that there's a lot of dialogue and it needs to randomize it somehow. But this we don't need to randomize because we're dealing with a I suck. Jesus Christ. So we're dealing with a specific location.
Anybody there?
Huh?
So this dialogue will only trigger when you're within a distance of a certain object. Now if you notice, we're sneaking right now. The vanilla random commentary does not trigger while you're sneaking. Uh, I'm not sure if that's because voices alert bandits, and I'm not sure if silent voices make a difference with regard to that. I'll have to see. Maybe I'll just voice this character just to see if the noises she makes alerts anybody. But it might just be for immersion purposes. They didn't want anybody talking while you were sneaking. But the comments she makes are with regard to stealth in some cases, so it would make sense that she would whisper them when you're sneaking. The one issue with this is that what will happen is, given the amount of locations in Skyrim, you're going to have thousands and thousands of lines of dialogue. So, I mean, I don't know if a voice actor would be willing to do that. Maybe over time. I've talked with Jay about doing it for a couple of his characters, and he seemed fine with it as long as it was in small doses. But it will take a long time, and I'll have to play Skyrim over again, basically, and do a location a day. And but there's a lot of things that you can do that are location specific and help immersion, particularly for this cave. I mean, I just came up with 3 for the thief. There's a note somewhere in the cave that mentions the rotting support beams, and so what Daggerlon, who hates decay, might comment on that. I came up with a couple for Rumarin as well, since Jay is voicing that one. But what I'm probably going to do is do this for NPCs who have not been cast yet, and only give the roles to someone who is willing to do the 1,000 or 2,000 or so lines that it will require. But that isn't going to be in any future updates or any of the next few updates. I mean, it's going to be something that takes a long time to accomplish, just given the amount of locations and the amount of dialogue it'll take. But one good thing is that it doesn't seem to require scripts, so you don't have to make new ones for those. Well, even though they're auto-generated, but it's just extra dialogue is basically what it is.
Years of history, friend.
Okay, this is a Bard instrumental. This one is an original one by Giramore. He's titled it Portraiture, which I believe is a portmanteau of the 2 words portrait and overture. As for the meaning, it's probably, or it's definitely way over my head. I don't understand anything to do with art. So as far as this character goes, the one thing I wanted to stress is that because this is an idle animation with music in place of dialogue, what it does not do is shut off the in-game music. So right now I have the in-game music off, but let's say if we're gonna play the music, what you're gonna have is basically just complete chaos. So it's still a work in progress. I'm pretty sure nobody plays without music. So there are a couple other issues. After she finishes playing this song, she'll air guitar for about 3 or 4 seconds until the next idle animation kicks in. They seem to go on forever unless you put a stop to them with a secondary idle. But it's a good song. This last portion of the video contains a bit of a spoiler, so if you don't want to see it, turn off the video now. And anyone else, let's proceed. Okay, we have 2 NPCs who basically hate each other, Skjarn and Edwayne. And the difficulty was, because Skjarn's a follower, is trying to create all the, or account for all the different permutations of how a player would play the game. Would they meet Skjarn first? Would they meet Edwayne first? And how would they react if the 2 were together? Originally, I wanted them to fight. Doesn't look like the time is. Oh, he's probably at the bar. Originally, I wanted them to fight on sight, so I put them in enemy factions. But apparently it didn't work. And so here he is walking down the hall. I'm bringing Skjarn.
The Nord? What's he doing here? The poem, it isn't ready. You tell that blasted demon to leave this place and take the skunk on his back with him. We'll duel soon enough. So long as the moons still circle the sky, I will send him to whatever mead hall the Nords reserve for cowards.
Now that's Jay. If you play the recent update, you'll notice the lines spoken differently. Originally, I had him speaking directly to Skjarn. The problem with that is that he constantly looks at the player, so I had the line changed. I also had Jay add a little more emotion to it, so now I think the scene works better. Now if you talk to Skjarn, he'll also make a nice little comment. And then you also notice that there are extra dialogue options. Now this only appears if you brought Skjarn to Edwayne. Now if you had met Edwayne first and then talked to Skjarn, there would be a different dialogue saying, hey, I met this guy. I think I met the person you're referring to, and so on and so forth, accounting for all the different ways that you could meet the two NPCs. In the same vein, if you met Skjarn and then talked to Edwayne, or if you didn't meet Skjarn and talked to Edwayne, there would be different dialogue options. You could also have Skjarn attack Edwayne. But if you do it in the college, what will happen is, because he's a member of the
What?
because he's a member of the Bard's College, the others will interfere if they notice. Right now it's empty.
Hers, but she's selling me short.
Wait, I had to actually leave that game because apparently followers can't die by enemy hands, even if they're not protected. So I actually had to kill Skjarn myself in order to show the next.
Dead. Oh my goodness.
Yes, dead. Let's see if we can find Edwayne. Could be at the Winking Skeever. Oh, here he is.
Speak.
So now that Skjarn is dead, there's additional dialogue options.
Ha! Fantastic! I must admit this isn't the manner in which I envisioned it, but it certainly doesn't lack for satisfaction.
Alright, so we saw the additional dialogue options for Edwayne. The same would be true in the reverse. If you killed Edwayne and you left Skjarn alive, and you don't have to kill either of them. I mean, their duel is pretty silly, so you don't really have to kill one or the other. You can leave them both alive, and there'll be dialogue options depending on your choice. So I guess it's kind of like a quest, but not really. It's not going to show up in your journal or anything like that, because it really doesn't require someone to hold your hand as far as with a journal and all that, and tell you where to go. You could pretty much figure it out by yourself. And I guess that's it.